You're watching Cable 2.
November 27th, Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board meeting. We are glad that you're here tonight. We will start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation, so if you will all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Father, we just thank you for this beautiful day and the sunshine that we had. Father, I thank you for those who are in attendance tonight and for such a supportive and loving community that we have in Forsyth County for our students and for young people. And I'm thankful that we are here to celebrate some talents of our great artists, and we thank you for them. We thank you for their families. And Lord, I'm thankful for my board members, for each of them, and for having spent 4 years getting to know them and friendships that we have made. And Father, just continue to ask that you look after our students, their families, and our staff, and continue to put your blanket of protection across this district. Amen. You may be seated. So I do not believe we have any changes to our agenda for this evening. So if I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Taylor, all in favor? Thank you very much. So we have some special recognitions. At this time, I would like to recognize Penny Freeland.
Good evening, Dr. Emery and Chairman Jones, Board of Education members, and our special guest. And thank you for being here as we recognize this year's 2018 holiday card selections. Our first card, chosen by Deana Taylor is Alyssa Young, a 5th grader from Diggs Latham Elementary School. Her art teacher is Amanda Gordon. Her principal is Ted Burkhall. If her teacher, principal, and special guest will please stand. And Alyssa, stay right there. Yes, her parents. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Next, the card that was selected by Robert Barr is Grace Johnson, a 5th grader from Southwest Elementary School. Her art teacher is Tammy Cables, and her principal is Summer Jackson. If your art teacher, principal, and your special guest, which includes parents, will please stand. Next, selected by Lori Goins-Clark, is Soraya Abreu, a 5th grader from Kimmel Farm Elementary School. Her art teacher is Joanna Portis, and her principal is Selena Tribby. If you'll please stand, and her parents. The next selection was selected by Lyda Calvert-Hayes. It's Mackenzie Akins, who could not be with us this evening, but she's an 8th grader from Southeast Middle. Her art teacher is here, Denise Kainer, and her principal is Stephanie Gentry. The next selection was by Vic Johnson, and that's Miss Ellie Hobbs, an 8th grader from Southeast Middle School. Her Her art teacher is Diane Betzner-Tabor, and her principal is Stephanie Gentry. The next selection was by Elizabeth Mottsinger. This is Kalina Bassett. She's a kindergartner from the Children's Center. Her art teacher is Carolyn Archie, and her principal is Samantha Mannering. And if her special guest and art teacher and principal would please stand. The next selection was made by Marilyn Parker. It's Michelle Viola, a 12th grader from Reagan High School. Her art teacher is Jennifer Willard, and her principal is Brad Royal. If you would please stand. Next was selected by David Singletary. It's Miss Emma Makita, and the 9th grader from East Forsyth High School. Her art teacher is Terry Hester, and her principal is Rodney Bass. If you would please stand. The next selection by Deana Taylor is Amaya Lyles. She's a 12th grader from Atkins A&T High School. Janet Blakely is her art teacher, and Joe Childers is her principal. And the last selection was selected by Dr. Beverly Emery. Her name is Arden Gentry. She's a 12th grader from the Career Center. Her art teacher is Andrea Raines, and the principal there is Dr. Chris Nichols. And congratulations to each one of you. These are our holiday card selections for 2018. Stand still. Our board members have a special treat for you, so don't move.
To shake everyone's hand, so if you guys can just kind of turn around and if you'll help them just turn around. Yep. That's okay. There you go. So while the room is kind of clearing out, wasn't that great? That was a great start to the meeting, right? Awesome, awesome. Yes, absolutely. So tonight, we say farewell to a few of our board members. And so, you know, it's 4 years have gone by very fast. And during those 4 years, we have gone through quite a bit together. So anyway, tonight, we'd first like to recognize Mr. Robert Varr. So Robert, come up. So 4 years ago, I would have never thought that Robert and I would have sang a duet to each other and send out to the district staff to kind of kick off the year. So Robert has served this community very well, and it has been a pleasure to serve with you as your leadership as our vice chairman and leading our finance committee, and so it's been great to get to know you and Marilyn and your kids and just what a wonderful family you are, and we are excited for opportunities that lie ahead. We're excited about you being on Winston-Salem State's Board of Trustees, and so we know that there's great things that are going to be happening there, and we also feel like we're part of your church family. You've included us there, and so we'll come back.
Thank you.
But anyway, we thank you for you know, your heart and the person that you are, and so this is just a token of our appreciation, and we have the boxes and things back in the boardroom so you can get it home safe. But if you
this is pretty heavy. Wow. And you know what, I just want to say the 4 years that I've been on the board, it's been a great experience. Of course, a lot of work. I look at the associate superintendents and FCAE and the families and the kids and this board and our superintendent, and just say thank you for allowing me to serve Alex, our legal counsel, all of you guys back there in the back. I wish the camera could kind of zoom on you guys, but I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to serve, and I'll be back one way or the other, one form or the other, I don't know, I'll be back. Hey, but thank you so much, and Dana, you've been a great chair. All right, bless you.
Okay, Mr. Singletary. So early on in the 4 years ago, we said if something goes wrong, we just blame it on David. It just doesn't matter, and he has been he lets us get by with doing those things, and we appreciate you, David. You have been a great voice, a great balance on our board, and we appreciate you. And there are so many great things that have opened up and opportunities that are in front of you, and we're excited about that and coming to see you. And you know, all of a sudden we have all these ministers. Is there some? But we look forward to hearing you from the pulpit, and you've led our policy committee so well, and you always step in, like today. You led building and grounds right into policy, and you always just when someone needs something, you step up and you take care of it. And so we thank you for your service to this community, and we will miss you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys
It's been fun. It's been an event. It's been exciting. I have been blessed to serve with some of the most wonderful people. Mr. Johnson, to get to sit by him, he was my vice principal when I was in high school, is a double blessing. The leadership that Dana provided, along with Robert, the balance that Elizabeth and Marilyn both brought, and of course the guidance of Dr. Emery through this time has been the things I believe that got us through this. We were recognized as the board that had a trial by fire within our first few weeks of being with this board. And I think that every one of us has only had the goal of serving the community, serving our students, and serving our teachers to the best of our ability. And folks, I think that we can walk away this time saying that we did that. And that is what makes having served with this group of people, such a double honor. Lori, I didn't forget you, or you either, Deanna. So y'all have been multiple blessings as well. Dana, thank you for all that you've done. I am a better man for the time that I got to spend with y'all. And I appreciate Forsyth County and staff for allowing me to serve you. Thank you.
So as Miss Taylor comes up, I will share a story. So right in the beginning of, you get to know board members and you really don't know one another, and we're getting ready to kind of go start that process over again. I see Leah out in the audience, and as you kind of have to get to know each other's personalities. And I remember, I think it was the first time we were at kind of event. We really had just kind of gotten sworn in, and we were at Diggs Latham, if you remember. And I believe, I can't remember if it's what exactly. It was a celebration for something. We were there, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm a crier. I'm very tenderhearted, and I don't really know Miss Taylor, and this is really touching me, and I'm just going to start crying here in just a second. I kind of look over, and she's already like, and I thought, I just love this lady. We just have the same heart. So that was our bonding moment. But Deanna, I know that we have great things to still see coming from you. I think in public office, you are, when I think of you, I think of your faith, and I think of your heart for everybody. And you have been a balance and a blessing on this board. I feel so blessed to have known you and James and your kids, and we love you. And so whatever you choose to run for or whatever you choose to serve in, you will have my support, because I think you are a very talented lady, and that's what we need in this community.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I'm not really a speech maker, but I just want to say thank you to all of you, and it was an honor to be able to serve with this district, serve our children. Thank you to the staff and administration, to all the teachers. I'll be around, even if it's just sitting in the audience. I might be at the podium with the new board saying, hey, we need this. So I'll still be around, and it's been an honor. I love each and every one of you. I've learned something from every one of you, and I'll still be calling, answer my calls when I call. But thank you all. It's a privilege, and it's great knowing and getting to knowing each and every one of you. Thank you.
So this next one, we may not, I worry when Ms. Parker gets the microphone. We had a vacancy to fill on our board, and we needed someone who could just hit the ground running and fill in and serve this time, and we all thought, let's please hope Marilyn Parker says yes. And so she did. And so Marilyn served, from 1998 to 2014. So long service to our community on the school board. And then when we needed her, she stepped back up and has served probably a little over a year with us now, right? Yeah. Two? And so, oh yes, and so Marilyn, thank you for your experience, for your wisdom, for your wit. You always know kind of exactly when we need that laughable moment, and you have been a blessing. You have served so well for this community and for the school district, and you're so respected, and I feel very honored and privileged that I was able to serve with you. So thank you.
Whoa, that is heavy. It is heavy. Anyway, well, thank you. I wasn't sure what I had signed on for when I did that. I thought, why did I do that? I was just getting used to life without school board, and now I'm back doing it again. But it has been a real privilege and an honor to do that, to serve with a totally new board almost, and to to come back. We had kind of just hired Dr. Emery, and she was just kind of getting her feet wet, and it was nice to come back and serve in a district that she was the superintendent of as well. I said when I made my goodbye speech the first time that the people were what made this system, and they are. And it's those folks, all the staff, that I'll miss. I'll miss the board as well, but you become real friends with the board because you become a family. You become real friends with a staff that works as hard as they do in this county, with teachers, with classified folks, with everybody. Tonight we're going to say have a couple of people retire that are on the list tonight. One's been the face of Kernersville Elementary every time you go in there, and another sitting right here. I'm not sure a board meeting's going to go when Jackie goes. So, but it's those folks that make the system, and I feel a real honor, and it has been a privilege to be able to serve in a district that has so many folks that have the heart and soul of children and educators, and that education's a real passion for them. And so thank you very much for allowing me to be a small part of that.
And so at this time, we would like to recognize Victor Johnson Jr., the legend, Mr. Johnson. So Mr. Johnson has served 21 years on this board, and that's just here. But he's really had a lifetime of service to kids in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. You retired in what, 1993?
93, yeah.
From the district, and then started serving in what, 1997 on the board. And so
That's 202.
yes, and so, you know, not only this, but we know his golf tournament that he puts on for students. You know how he tutors kids, and just the love that he has for people in general. So, Mr. Johnson, it's been an honor to serve with you. He about 4 years ago, he said, Dana, you need to meet some people. And so I drove over to his house, and we got in the car, and we rode around, and you introduced me to new folks as I was just walking into the chairmanship that he felt like would be beneficial. And so that's what you do, Mr. Johnson. You look after us, and you have been a pleasure to serve with, and thank you for all that you have done for the kids in this community. You have such a loving heart, and I'm better for knowing you. So thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Well, you're welcome. Well, as Dana said, this is my second retirement. I retired in '93, and after 33 years, I was really having a good time out playing golf just about every day. So my wife she was still working, so she came home one afternoon and said, "You need to find something else to do other than getting around here playing all the time." I said, "Well, I don't know what else I could do," but I was called from the school system to come back out to North Forsyth to keep North Forsyth open until they got a principal. And after that, there were some people that came by the house and said, "I need to get on the school board," because Walter Marshall was coming from the school board, and we had worked together for 10 years or better with the NAACP. So I kind of traced him and got a few people to give me a few votes, and I ended up on the school board. So it has been a pleasure, really been a pleasure, because this school system has meant so much to me, because, you know, being a product of this community and getting a chance to go to schools here and leave here, and you get a scholarship. And, you know, I came back and I got my second job here It was settled in 1962. So I've been, after 33 years of teaching and coaching and administration, I thought I had a break in 93, and I was really happy to get out, but this is my second retirement, so I don't know what else my wife has for me to do. So, because I got to go home and practice on my crippled leg here to see how I'm going to get back out on that golf course. Well, that's one of my pastimes, but I have really enjoyed the fellowship with these young people. They're much younger. They're doing a good job, and I think we need to get behind them and do all we can to help them out. I'm going home, and if you need any advice, I'm going to give you my telephone number. But I really appreciate everything that this school system has done for me and my family, and I could be happier to make this second retirement. There's old saying that if you stay too long, what has been a blessing sometimes becomes a curse. So I want to get out of the way before it becomes a curse.
So he gets all of his, well, Mr. Johnson's making his way back. So that I can see you all. It's hard to see each other in the circle. But Board, I just want to thank you for your support as your chair for these past 4 years. It has been a true honor to serve in that capacity, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And I also want to say how much in this 4 years I appreciate our staff. You guys are amazing, and you just do a terrific job, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And that goes for Dr. Emery as well. And so and thank you for letting us have a little kumbaya moment with each other, but you do really start to bond, and every one of these folks I consider to be a part of my family, and not just the board members, but our staff as well. So thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I really told her I was not letting you get away without just a moment, and so I promise I'm going to be brief, but I want to thank you for the ability to share and disagree, and I think that has happened because there's a relationship. And one of the things we try to model for kids is that you can speak your voice and you can not agree as long as you do it respectfully and with love. And I have disagreed with every single one of you, some of you on multiple occasions, but we always come back to the fact that there was a relationship beneath that, and I think that's how we learn from each other. So I want to just quickly say, when I look at you, those leaving, Marilyn, you remind me of fun, that we don't need to forget that there is always fun. Work should be fun, right? And whether it's a funny joke or, as Dana said, the right moment to bring us back to something silly, you have helped us keep the fun. Robert, no deference to your vocation. You have really taught me that I needed to pray more about work. And I think we pray for our families and we pray for the world, but sometimes we don't really pray about our work. And you and I have prayed about this work, and you have pushed me to do things that I knew I needed to do, and you've given me courage at times to do them. And so I just appreciate that more than you will know. Mr. Johnson, you walk the talk, dude. I will never, my fondest memory of you is that big bag of quarters. And when I first met you, and you have never disappointed, you hold kids to high expectations, and you get in these schools, and you build relationships. And so people talk a lot about the golf tournament, but I don't know that they realize that all the time you're out there, and some kid may only get a nickel, and another one a quarter, but they love you no matter what, because you
you really have high expectations for them. And I think we all need to continue to have high expectations for our kids. David, I have to say that the word balance, I think you have been a voice that has spoken from integrity. And it didn't matter political party, it didn't matter who's lobbying, you always have spoken from what you think is the right thing. And you do it with love and respect for your colleagues and for the people that you work with. And you can always be heard. And I think this board has heard you because of that. Deana, I told you this before. I said it in a public setting where her husband was the guest of honor and she was just there with him, that she was really the guest of honor. But I think Deana helps us keep students centered, alive and well. And sitting beside her for 4 years, she's the voice in my ear often that reminds us of why we're here. And we get caught up in a lot of things. We manage crisis every day. There's always something going on. And having someone who always kind of brings you back to, okay, how does this affect the kids and where are the kids, has been powerful. And so I thank you for that. And I know that you'll continue to do that in whatever role you have. I thank all of you for working together. You've made it easy. Well, most of the time, you've made it easy. And I appreciate that teamwork and that spirit of, you know, this is about kids. And for any of you who think this is easy, you know, I've been working with boards for this is my 25th year as a superintendent. And what I would tell you is that the people that they represent don't vote. So think about that. They get elected by folks, but their constituents are in classrooms K-12, who the people they serve and they need to look out for their best interests are not necessarily the people who put them in office. And those are difficult decisions that have to be made meeting to meeting, committee meeting to committee meeting. And I think it's a job that is often unrecognized and not thanked for. So on behalf of all the staff who you have thanked, on behalf of the amazing teachers in this district, leaders, students, and their families, I want to say how much I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, Dr. Emery. So we are shift gears a little bit, and we have public comments on agenda items. So Jackie will put up for us a timer, and so we have 3 minutes. So when I call your name, if you'll come to the podium in the front, and first we have Barbara Lancaster. No, you're fine. You are absolutely fine.
You gonna help me, Jackie?
Do you have
Or
something?
somebody will help me.
Oh,
do
Ms.
this.
Jenkins will
Thank
pass
you.
that out.
So everybody can help. Thank you. Off the clock, I want to tell you about Vic Johnson. Got to work with him at North Forsyth. Many words of wisdom, not quotable here. As a guidance person, and he was the assistant principal. The last port of call was with Mr. Johnson after we had tried. And he told me a lot of things about what I needed to do and how I needed to do that. So once again, though, Mr. Johnson, you have influenced my life. I'm here tonight because of you. I read what you said in the paper week before last, that schools should be named for people who have benefited students. And I thought, wow, words of wisdom. And so I thought, who most benefited students in my 30 plus years here in the school system? And that's who I'm here to nominate. First of all, what I know is that you're going to read this, but put it down for now, because you won't remember but 5% of that. I want you to know more about this, so I'm going to tell you some of the things that are in this paper, but you won't remember but 10% of that. But I'm going to tell you the 10% that I want you to remember. I'm nominating Fred Adams, Dr. Fred Adams, who started at North Forsyth, Mr. Johnson, after he graduated from Appalachian in 1975. And if you had asked him then, what do you teach, Fred? He would have said, I teach students down there in the shop over at the other end of the building. Then as he became a counselor and you ask him, what did he do? He would tell you he did guidance at middle school and then at East Forsyth High School. And when he got one of the central office jobs, he would have told you he was in charge of student services. It was always about students. And I was a counselor. It was a pretty dreary job, answering the phone and filing folders. But Fred came along and had an idea about developmental guidance. And instead of working with 5% of the students, this gave us an opportunity to work with 95% of the students through a program of doing classroom guidance, peer counseling, small groups, parent education. Vision is one thing, implementation is another. But he knew, he picked out schools, pilot schools, and got us educated about how to get this going. And as he worked with principals, he knew principals were, if one school had something and they heard about it, they all wanted it. This is the way he sold the program. He also sold it to the board. So after a few years in the late 70s, early 80s, he had clerical help for us. Did I get shot? Or,
If you just
cut off at the knees.
You just want to like have a closing remark real quick.
I'll wind it up.
Thank you.
So not only did this provide services for thousands and thousands of students from this aspect of guidance, but for those of us who were working, it gave us an opportunity to do something with real passion. So I appreciate the opportunity to nominate Fred Adams, and he's continued to, as Mr. Johnson has, continued to do a lot of things in education. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lancaster. Mayor Horn.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Emery, it's a humbling privilege to be with you tonight. I look around this dais and I see so many of you that I know for so many years. Some of you I've known a very short time, but I recognize the commitment and the contributions you've made to our school system, and thank you very much from the town of Louisville, but certainly from all of the kids who you say don't have a voice and can't vote for you. I just want to briefly, in the 2 minutes and 34 seconds, it reminds me of internet speed when you look at the thing. In the 2 minutes and 29 seconds now that I have left, when the first idea of putting a new middle school on the bond referendum for Louisville, I will tell you our community became very excited. It was an opportunity, once again, for our students to have a resource that was special. We don't do things in Louisville, and everybody talks about the communities, but we don't do things in Louisville for the sake of doing them. We do them for the sake of community. So when we knew the bond was going to have our school on it, we knew we had to do everything we could in a difficult part of the county that didn't necessarily appreciate bonds. And by the way, we did pass it in every single precinct. When we were asked to participate by the staff who came to us and said, listen, we have some financial issues that we need some help on, we said, great, we will step up and do that, and we will commit $250,000 to help with infrastructure. We're going to commit another $125,000 to enhance the gateway with sidewalks that connect our community. I think the value of what a community brings to a school, not downplaying that of individuals, because individuals do make their marks on communities, but the value of having a school ingrained and named through a community permeates what we like to call community building. And so I encourage you tonight to consider naming the new middle school, Louisville-Vienna Middle School. It's a terrific opportunity for us, I think, in the next few years as the school prospers. I think you'll see just how much community involvement there is and how a community can truly embrace and care about a school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey.
Chairman Jones, distinguished board, and Dr. Emery. I want to take a minute just to say that I agree with Ms. Lancaster that we probably should name the school after an individual. And Fred Adams is an individual that I would strongly recommend. But I stand before you today because I promised a dear friend who I worked in his campaigns for years, after working in Walter Marshall's campaign for years and going from door to door in East Winston, knocking on thousands of doors and getting in thousands of arguments about who was best suited for this position. And I just want to thank Vic Johnson for all of his efforts. And number one, I want to thank him for the Simon Green Atkins High School on Old Greensboro Road, because Vic was a stalwart in fighting for that. And Vic, you know, we had plenty of people to speak out against it when we were up there at Carver High School in that dimly lit auditorium with Dr. Martin and the school board. And you didn't have much support, but you had me and Walter Marshall there, and that was enough. We got a good school, got a great school to carry on the legacy of Atkins High School, which a lot of folk in this community are unaware of, the outstanding students that graduated from Atkins. I never had that opportunity. Everybody in my family did. I chose to go another route. But Vic Johnson, you, the entire community of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, we owe you a debt of gratitude, because you put a school back in our neighborhood that put pride back in the name of Atkins High School. That school on Old Greensboro Road is a testament to what can happen in our community. And that's why we always stand before you. When I came here tonight and I told the people at 14th Street I was coming, and they said, Harvey, please represent us. And I want to thank Vic Johnson for representing us. Because every time I used to walk around Delabrook Road as a youngster on my way to Winston Lake to catch some fish that I never caught, I always passed the Johnson house. And Vic, I want you to know that you are a true champion of all the people of Forsyth County. And I'd like for this board, the remaining members on this board, to remember that. You don't just represent your little crew or your little group. You're not just a Democrat, you're not just a Republican, but you represent all the people of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. Vic Johnson, and to all you board members going out, I salute you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Rhonda Mays.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, the board, and Dr. Emery. I am Rhonda Mays, a school social worker here in this district, and I serve as full-time release president of Forsyth County Association of Educators. Tonight, I would like to speak on the middle school controlled access system. This, better known as a security system, buzzer system to add more security to our schools, which is a great idea, which is something that is needed. But one of the things, this is just one level. We have to also make certain we take in the human component of safety. And those individuals in our school district that add to that are our student services, our school social workers, our school counselors, our school psychologists, our school nurses, our parent involvement coordinators. We have to make certain we have the correct ratio of those individuals available in our schools. I know a number of you are going off, but some of you are staying on. As you look at this system, don't think of it as something that's the end all to be all that's gonna help us to be safe. We need to have that first line and that preventative in place as well. Those individuals in place where the students can go and speak to them about the things that are troubling them. Those individuals who can put preventative measures in place so our students feel safe, because this safety system can still be rigged and can still be, basically it can be overturned. They can get around it, regardless to what you put in place. But when children and students know they have people that they can go and speak with and that they can access in their schools, then they will have other ways to handle situations. They will then feel safe and secure to speak about what's going on in the buildings, what's going on in their homes, and they will reach out and get help. Because that's the bottom line. When people get the help they need, that's where real safety takes place. So please, as you're looking at keeping our schools safe, we don't just stick to these hardwired measures, but we also include the human element and make certain that we have our student services ratios the way they need to be in our schools and our student services individuals available to our students in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Ms. McCracken, if I just couldn't find you in the crowd. If the, I'm sorry. So at this part of the meeting for public comments, it's just on things that are on our agenda for tonight. So if you wouldn't mind, Brent Campbell's right in the back. Raise your hand, Brent. And if you would like to speak on this topic, if you could sign up for the public comments at the end of the meeting, we would like to hear what you have to say. Okay? Thank you. Mr. Dunn?
Good evening. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. Some of you are leaving, some of you are staying. I just want to personally thank you for all your service that you give. A lot of people think what you do is easy and simple. It's far from that. As you journey in your next phase of life, remember that you always have friends and people in this community have value what you brought to the table. The issue I want to bring forth is about the two contracts about staff improvement or staff training. Ask that you hold off until the new board, which the majority you are leaving, and the new board to come in, and give them a chance, the opportunity to look at the contract, because sometimes the impact may be multiple years, and give them a chance to review it. Not to say that it need to be changed, but if we just table it temporarily, give them a chance to review it to see if there's something that they will be committed to long term. But as I said in the beginning, thank you for what you've done, and appreciate all that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. And thank you for all of your care and commitment to education. We appreciate you as well. Mr. Jabbar.
Well, I hope you don't start the clock before I give Mr. Johnson some accolades.
Go ahead.
Mr. Johnson has been in our community for many, many years. I used to be in a group in R.J. Reynolds called Network 2000. And we used to sponsor the golf tournament. And I was so grateful that you took this under your wings and you soared with it. So God bless you, and may your years be many more. I'm here, as you heard, so many accolades given to Mr. Johnson. When we start naming schools, we need to start naming schools after people who do something in our community. Now, I was in a building and grounds meeting 2 weeks ago. Y'all was kind of wrestling with this and didn't come to a conclusion. I guess you came to one today. But my concern is, the young lady spoke here, is that we begin to find people in our community who has sown into the community so that we can recognize those people as a part of the community. Louisville, Vienna, it sounds good. It's got a good ring to it, but it doesn't have any personal identification with that community. So I asked that, you probably already made your decision, but I still stand to let you know that somewhere along the line, we need to break this trend of naming schools after communities. We have too many people in our community who have been upstanding, who have sold into our community, who need to be recognized. Our children need to walk in the Louisville, Vienna community and look and see a name that speaks for that community. I continually come before you. I want to say, as I leave the podium, I want to thank all of you who have served. Not always in agreement, but I'm here for the children too. So I'm here always fighting for the children. Hopefully, you just don't let this appearance on the school board be your lasting moment working with children. I expect you to be out here in this audience fighting for these children. So just don't go home and you get a pass, Brother Johnson. You can go home.
It's because Dr. Johnson has something for him to do.
Yeah, no, he can't play golf no more. But to the rest of you, you have a charge. You are elected officials, now become public servants from this audience for our children. Don't just run home and say, well, I did this and I did that. Be a part of this community. That's going to make a difference. We got a lot of work to do. I'm volunteering now, and I tell you, we got a lot of work to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jabbar. So that concludes our comments on agenda items. Board, we will move into our discussion items for this evening. And first, I would like to recognize Darrell Walker as we discuss the 2018-19 staff calendar amendment for child nutrition.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board, Dr. Emery. I'm going to give you the really quick version of this. It's kind of really pretty simple. We are asking the board to amend the agenda for our cafeteria managers to be able to come back prior to school right after the Christmas break in order to accept food deliveries, in order so we can be better prepared for that first day of school that kids come back. So we'll probably move that RS day back to later in the year, but we were just asking the board at this point in time to move that day. I don't want to embarrass her, but Amanda's here, and she just had a child about 2 weeks ago to be here tonight. So if you have any specific questions, you can ask Amanda, and I'm sure she's got plenty of pictures that she could show. But anyway, that's kind of our request tonight.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Walker or Amanda? Amanda, stick around. We want to see pictures. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Darrell.
Yeah.
So next we get to hear from two of our wonderful principals. First, Ms. Keisha Gabriel, principal at Kennedy High School.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. I am excited about the future of Kennedy. We were presented with somewhat of a challenge, and we figured out that through that challenge, there is definitely a silver lining that can allow us to serve our students better. With the challenge of adapting our current residential transportation program with school buses, we realized that we needed to maximize our district resources in order to make sure that we're not only getting our students to school, but we are also being able to be responsible stewards of our transportation system. What we are proposing is a revised schedule so that we can be able to make use of the morning magnet bus transportation. That would have us starting both the middle school and the high school at 7:55 a.m. For our extended day middle school program that as of right now goes an extra 45 minutes, we are proposing that they go an extra hour so that they can be able to ride home with Carter High School at 3:40, and they will receive residential service along with the Carter High School students. For our high school students, we would leave the end time at its current time, which is 3:05, so that they can be able to ride to their home school with the Career Center students. So in that way, we are not providing residential service to any of our students, specifically for Kennedy, but we're making use of the existing magnet bus program and the two schools that are on our campus, Carter High School and Career Center. So that would have our high school going an extra 30 minutes and our middle school extending 15 minutes beyond what it currently is now.
Board members, do you have any questions? We had, actually both of these items had extensive conversations last week at Curriculum Committee meeting. So there's no questions? Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And so coming forward now is Principal Thompson, principal at Philo Hill Magnet Academy.
Good evening, Dr. Emery and school board members. I come to you tonight requesting that the board approve the rebranding of the magnet program at Philo Hill Magnet from the Mandarin, Chinese language immersion and global technologies to the Philo Academy for Research and Innovative Design, with 4 pillars that uplift our Verizon Innovative Learning School designation for 4 experiences: the I Self, I Learn, I Lead, and I Connect, so that we can leverage resources to better serve the community of Philo Hill Magnet Academy. I didn't know what else I really kind of needed to say, but just the rebrand is about innovation and bringing the community more connected under the guise of us building a new school, building the renovations of the school under the 2016 bond. And so we feel like it will better serve the students in the community that is Philo Hill Magnet.
Board members, questions? Dr. Emery, do you have a comment?
With both of these, just want to remind folks that because both schools are going to undergo renovation, the blessing you give them tonight with programming also helps fuel design. So as we begin to design a renovation for Philo, knowing where that program's going so that we can be really customized and tailored to the needs of a research and innovation magnet versus sort of being in limbo. So I appreciate your support and all the work. Both of these schools have done an awful lot of work to sort of get themselves programmatically to a place as magnets that allow us then with our design teams to do the renovations in a way that best serves students.
Other questions or comments, board members? It was, we enjoyed the kind of the in-depth, the deep dive at curriculum, and really it sounds like an absolutely phenomenal program, and we can feel your passion. Hello. Say AP in the back. We have to say hello. I know. I just saw her and I'm like, oh, hey. We appreciate, you can tell a lot of thought and excited about the opportunities that are happening at Philo Hill. So thank you.
And I appreciate you all for the opportunity to come back and serve at Philo Hill. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, while she's going back, I just wanted to remind folks that, especially since we're broadcasting into community, when we talk about Verizon, I don't know that we have done a whole lot here, and I know at some point we talked about having Kevin and team and the schools come, but our school district is one of 5 across the country that received one of the Verizon grants, and we have 4 middle schools, Philo being one of them, East Forsyth, Prep, and Northwest, where every student received a device, and they've gone through extensive training, and parents have come in. It's pretty phenomenal to watch the rollout of this, and we know that it gives us unique opportunities for kids not only to have a device, but to have the service that goes with it through Verizon. And if we do the things we think we will do, we also have opportunities to extend that beyond the current 2 years. So while Dr. Benica and Kevin are both in the house, I just want to say thank you for all the extra work that goes into rolling these things out and making sure families have what they need to support students.
Thank you, Dr. Emery. Okay, so we are moving into committee reports, unless, I think we have, is he ready to come in now? Okay, oh, sure, come. So we had, we have different sign-up sheets, this, Ms. McCracken, for different topics, and so I believe we have, this gentleman would like to speak on the naming of the school, and so we will, sorry about that confusion, and we would love to hear from you, sir.
No question about it. I was confused. I signed on the wrong sheet, and then I was told that I was too late. So.
No, never too late.
And then I knew there'd be a way that I could speak. So
that's what we're here for.
Thank you. Vic Johnson, you don't walk any faster than you ever did. So I've known you for many, many years, and you always walked this pace. You just carry a stick with you once in a while now. Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Emery, and staff. I am Roger Scott, a 33-year educator in this school system, having taught, planned new facilities, served as purchasing manager, and I could smile broadly because I'm in my 19th year of retirement. I was excited once again that the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Board of Education is considering the naming of a school. I've had my information prepared since 2011 to make this presentation. It's my pleasure to recommend that a new school be named for a career educator whose life has been devoted to the education of all the children in our community, Mr. Melvin Nelson Jessup. Mr. Jessup was quite accomplished at every level in which he served in the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County school system. After short tenures of teaching in Stokes County and Surrey County, Mr. Jessup entered the military service. Upon completion, he began his local career teaching at Haynes High School. Later, after 3 years teaching at Gray, which is now the campus of the UNC School of the Arts, he was tapped to be the director of purchasing. 19 years later, he became the assistant superintendent for business affairs, which included overseeing new school construction, food service, transportation, maintenance, security, and purchasing. The department was later called Auxiliary Services. During this time, he served with three others as an interim superintendent team. After that superintendent left, and after the next two superintendents, he was named the interim superintendent twice. After his retirement from the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Schools, he served Surrey County once and Davie County twice as interim superintendent. Mr. Jessup knew school business and operations and dedicated his entire working career to students, teachers, and employees to help make the best of each opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to recommend this outstanding educator in this school naming. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, board members, we will switch gears. Mr. Singletary, are you prepared to give the Building and Grounds Committee report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Our fellow board member, Ms. Calvert Hayes, sends her apologies for not being able to be with us this evening. They are out of the community due to a death in the family. So our thoughts and prayers are with them as they travel this evening. The Building and Grounds Committee met today and had a presentation from our staff regarding the middle school access control system. As always, our staff has performed an excellent job of due diligence. They've researched a system that will allow us to replace an older and less flexible system with a system that is adaptable as well as expandable. Originally, there was discussion that the cost for the system could be as much as $250,000. Going through the bidding process and that due diligence, they were able to come to a bid of actually around little less than $95,000, a significant savings of about 62%. In addition, we had conversation around the naming of the new middle school on Robin Hood Road. A number of options were put forward. Discussion around naming schools after individuals in the community who have contributed to education and the community. Those discussions were had, suggestions were fielded. Ultimately, your Building and Grounds Committee decided to move forward or put forward to the school board this evening the name of Louisville Vienna Middle School. Nope, did I mess up? Oh, did we just decide to go? I thought I checked with you and
Oh, maybe
Okay.
I'm wrong. I believe Ms. Monsinger made the motion at the end.
okay, wait a minute.
Ms. Monsinger, what did you motion?
I think we put out several, and I think I'm hearing that the people wanted to honor the request made by the mayor and the community.
Okay.
So
That-
I believe that was Louisville Viet.
It was
So we did Louisville Middle School.
That's what I
Lord
thought.
have
I mean,
mercy.
we can talk about it later, that's fine.
No,
We're good there.
here was my grand moment for a grand exit. Needless to say, we had some interesting discussion around this, okay? A lot of discussion. So, council has been kind enough to correct me that Louisville Middle School was ultimately put forward by the Building and Grounds Committee. That being said, discussion was had during the Building and Grounds Committee that still did not preclude anybody on the board from making an additional recommendation. That being said, the policy committee also met, and we had our final reading of our wellness policy, which has been part of our discussion for a month or so now. And that wellness policy final reading was approved, and that will be a part of your action items for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Singletary.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Clark, our curriculum committee report.
As you have heard, we heard from two of our principals, and they talked in detail about their proposals, and that was Dr. Thompson and Principal Gabriel about Kennedy and Philo Hill, and so we've talked about that already. I won't rehash that. We also covered new high school course proposals, which happens every year about this time, and those will come before action items here shortly. And that was a discussion was led on that by Dr. Symington. And then we also discussed some new reproductive health resources better aligned to our standards for 6th, 7th, and 9th grades.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. So board members, that concludes our discussion items for this evening. We will move directly into our action items. First up for consideration, your consideration tonight is the approval of the amendment to the staff calendar for the 10-month salaried child nutrition personnel. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Taylor, do I have a second? Second, Ms. Monsinger. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you so much. Motion carries. Next, consider approval of the John F. Kennedy program changes. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Clark, do I have a second? Ms. Parker, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the Philo Hill Magnet Academy program changes. Do I have a motion to approve? Vice Chairman Barr, do I have a second? Mr. Singletary, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the 2019-20 high school course recommendations. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Clark, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the CT3 professional development contract for CLMS, Cook Literacy Model School. We're all these. So we know we have this program at Petrie. I think that's been going very well. Hear great things about it. So do you have a motion to approve? Ms. Clark, second. Mr. Singletary, any discussion, board, or comments, Dr. Emery?
Madam Chair, just because it was mentioned earlier, I just wanted to clarify that these are school-based requests for contracts, and they go through a vetting process that you all have basically put in place, so that we look at how does it align to their school improvement plan and their comprehensive needs assessment. So they aren't district decisions being made for training. They're really requests from schools to continue with programming that supports their own school improvement plans. And I just wanted to clarify that, since there was a request made to delay, that this is not a district-level decision, but more a school-based contract request.
Thank you for that clarification, Dr. Emery. Do we have a motion? Did we go through that? Did you have a motion? Okay, so that was the discussion. All in favor? Motion carries. Great, thank you. Consider approval of the EDU Lead Professional Development Contract. Do I have a motion? Mr. Singletary, do I have a second? Ms. Parker, any discussion, board? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of school improvement plans for low-performing schools. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, do I have a second? Ms. Taylor, any discussion, board members? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of budget amendment number 2 and transfer number 2. We've discussed this earlier, I guess a couple of weeks ago at Finance. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Barr, Mr. Singletary's been in. Mr. Singletary seconds the motion. Do we have any discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Consider approval of revised policy 5143, this is the wellness policy. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Parker, do I have a second? Ms. Montsinger, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the name for the middle school on Robin Hood Road. Do I have a motion? Please state the name that you would like clearly. Do I have a motion? Ms. Clark? You look like you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Golly, I'm just going to echo what we did in Building and Grounds, which came to a decision that we would put forth the name of Louisville Middle. There were several reasons, and one of the primary ones was that there will be several schools that feed into that. So it makes more sense, instead of Louisville Vienna, to just have the community name. Mayor Horn, if that makes sense. That is what came out of Building and Grounds. I'm not on that committee, but I will make a motion.
So are you making a motion for it to be Louisville
Middle.
Do I have a second for that motion? Vice Chairman Barr, any discussion or comments, board members? Ms. Montsinger?
Yes. I would like to say that several names were proposed at Building and Grounds, including naming the school after Maya Angelou, who was a Winston-Salem educator and world-renowned, and somebody that students will be indeed reading 30, 40 years from now, because she is such a profound writer and she made her home here. The name of Dr. Don Martin also was proposed, and he was the superintendent of this district for 19 years. He currently serves as a county commissioner and has been deeply, deeply dedicated to schools. There were several other names mentioned, so I do want to, none of the names that were mentioned could get the votes necessary to choose that as a name, but I do want the community to know that we did discuss those people, those names were brought up. There's also a question about naming schools after school board members instead of superintendents, and I think the board chose at that point to not entertain the name of prior school board members, although there are many who are deeply beloved by members of this board and members of the community.
Ms. Parker?
Just to add on to Ms. Montsinger's comments, we do have other naming opportunities in the school system. We have media centers, roads, different, lots of times things that people were really passionate about that that we have named things for. So that opportunity does exist, as well as some other schools that are not as community-based as this middle school will be, that will be being built, which will be up for naming whenever those schools come on board. So so I would encourage folks from the community and in the next board to look at the service for lots of these folks, and the people who have who have been mentioned and named have all been very passionate and very dearly loved in education and as educators. And so I would encourage those folks to continue on with your quest and for that to come to the forefront, because they are very deserving, and I think they do need to be recognized in some way.
Other comments, board members, at this time? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of Louisville Middle School? Okay, does anyone oppose? No? Awesome. I just couldn't see everyone's hands. Thank you, board. Last, consider approval of middle school controlled access systems. Oh, I'm sorry. It was not?
Oh, wait, yeah, you did.
Okay, sorry. Done. Okay. So last item for consideration this evening is the approval of the middle school controlled access systems that we spoke about at the Building and Grounds Committee meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, do I have a second? Ms. Clark, any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, can I just
Absolutely.
add on that Ms. May's comments are taken very much to heart about the need to make sure that our schools are safe and caring, and that the caring part is absolutely essential to safe schools. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Ms. Monsinger. So let's call for that vote one more time. All in favor? Okay, great. Just to make sure Alex could see. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, board members, that concludes our action items for this evening. We have 2 items on our consent agenda, and that's the approval of the meeting minutes for November 13th, 2018, and approval of the general personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Singletary, do I have a second? Ms. Taylor, all in favor? Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Can I comment again?
Yes.
As I alluded to in my remarks, there's some folks on this personnel report that are going to be retiring that are, as always, as each personnel report, that have been the face and the heart of our school system with 30 plus years of service. And, you know, they show up on a personnel report, but they are so much more than a name and a number of years. And so I just want to say there's 2 or 3 on there that we're really going to miss. And so I just want to say thank you to all those folks who have been the face and the actual people that people relate to. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. So now we have public comments. First up, Alex Bohannon.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.